By definition, JRPG refers to Japanese role-playing games. These games are distinguished from their Western equivalents by their own blend of character development, plot, and frequently turn-based combat systems. The genre has experienced an incredible comeback in recent years, which I would consider a JRPG renaissance. Today I want to talk about the things that have led to this comeback, several important games that best represent the movement, and their wider ramifications for the video game business.
Hello everyone, my name is Fejiro and this is cozyfeji, and on this channel we cover a variety of things such as video essays, reviews, JRPGs, and all things cozy gaming. Now, as someone who's only gotten into JRPGs quite recently, even just in the past 5 years alone, I feel like the growth of the JRPG genre has been tremendous, and it's definitely something to be talked about. Because I feel like in the 2010s, JRPGs were kind of mocked at, made fun of. Anyone who played JRPGs were considered a dweeb. People really did not care for JRPGs, and I feel like in that era, from I would say doing my research, it seems like from late 2000s to I would say mid 2010s, JRPGs I feel like weren't being marketed enough, they weren't really published enough, they weren't really being pushed, and I feel like a lot of people weren't really playing them. So I feel like it wasn't until the later end of 2010s and even this early 2020s we've seen a remarkable jump in JRPGs. The consumption, player base just loving the JRPGs, and also just new players and new people who love video games are playing JRPGs that they've never played before. Because I feel like a lot of people credit the late 90s to early 2000s as the golden era of JRPGs. Many of the time, people think of the PS1 and PS2 as the golden time to play JRPGs. If you were a little one in that time era or just a teenager, that was the time to really enjoy all the good classics. And so there was kind of a lull, like I mentioned before, but now in the 2020s, we're seeing a huge jump and spike, and I'm honestly here for it. I would definitely want to do a more deep dive as to why that's happening and what are the results and what are the pros and cons of this? Mostly the pros.
The force of nostalgia is a major aspect propelling the JRPG rebirth. A lot of gamers who were born in the 1990s and early 2000s remember playing great JRPGs like Dragon Quest VII, Chrono Trigger, and Final Fantasy VII. There is a demand for experiences that arouse similar emotions because of this emotional connection these games have with players. Through remakes, remasters, and spiritual successors that enhance the graphics and gameplay of older styles of games, developers have successfully capitalized on this nostalgia.
I think a great example of this is definitely the Final Fantasy remake trilogy. I know that for many people, Final Fantasy VII is probably their favorite JRPG of all time. It has been coveted as the standard of a JRPG for many. And so when the news was being announced back, I think 2015, when they were creating and in the development of a remake of Final Fantasy VII, many JRPG fans were really excited. And so when 2020 came around, with that the 7 remake came out, it sold really well and people were really all about this game. I think it even was nominated for Game of the Year that year, if I'm not mistaken. A lot of people were really intrigued to get into it because there was a newer audience and a more accepting audience for JRPGs with the remake trilogy, because now we have remake and rebirth. I think it's really interesting now that we have a time where the creators of the original can really flesh out the characters and the story and the whole world of Midgar in FF7 remake. A lot of people love that, some people don't, but I think it's really interesting that now we're in a stage where they could tell a story that they obviously did back then, but also tell a story that they wanted to, that they couldn't have back then because of limitations. Also a great one is Chrono Cross Remaster, and I know it's at the time when it came out, a lot of people were not very happy with it because it wasn't a direct sequel to Chrono Trigger, but now we're in a stage where we can get these remasters, and a lot of companies such as Square Enix or Neon Falcom are trying to look back on their old catalog and remastering or remaking these games, which is really great. Even last year we had the Baten Kaitos remaster duology, which is really cool to see because it allows us JRPG fans who never got to experience those games back in the day to play them again. And on top of that, not only with these remasters and remakes, they're getting a lot of spiritual successors, such as Sea of Stars, which is an indie game based on and pays a lot of homage to Chrono Trigger, and also has, I believe, the composer from Chrono Cross in this game as well. You even have the games like Eiyuden Chronicles, which is paying homage to the Suikoden series and stuff like that to that nature. Being able to see these developers current day who grew up with those games to make their own take on the very beloved games that they played in their childhood is such a great thing to see.
It is now easier for JRPGs to reach a global audience due to the globalization of the game industry. With the great progress made in localization, games are now not only faithfully translated but also culturally tailored for Western players. A wider audience for JRPGs has resulted from the ease with which players worldwide can now access the genre thanks to the digital distribution channels such as Steam, PlayStation, Nintendo, and Xbox.
I think for a while, the only developers or platforms that were really pushing out JRPGs more often than not, people can credit is definitely Sony and Nintendo. Those are really like the two that really were the home for JRPGs. I honestly still think that to this day, but of course, companies like Steam and of course Xbox are starting to realize that there is a market. People are playing these games and people want to see these games is a great thing to see. So being able to see all platforms accepting and picking up that JRPGs are a genre that people want to play is honestly a great thing, and it's a good bonus. I know a lot of people like to say that like, oh, it's weird to see Xbox singing JRPGs, but I think it's a good thing. That means different audiences get to experience or have the opportunity to play these games that they never had to, whether they are just a dedicated console person, whatever that may be. But being able to see games like Persona being pushed by Xbox is a great thing to see, and knowing that it's going to be on Game Pass day one is a great thing. Seeing games on multi-platforms is a great thing. Speaking of just being able to have access more to games that we haven't before, being able to see developers push out games that we never got to experience in other regions and countries is a beautiful, beautiful thing to see. A great example of this would be the Live Alive? I still don't know how to say that game. The Live Alive was a game that came out in 2022. I'm going to check myself on that. But that was a game that was only released in Japan, and it wasn't until recently in Nintendo, and I believe it's multi-platform as well, was able to finally get that out for the Western audiences to play, which is a great thing to see, because at the time when they made that game, they probably thought, nobody's really going to care for this game. But now that we're in a more different era, in a different time, a lot more people are, again, like I said before, more accepting and want to experience a lot more that JRPGs have to offer.
Persona 5, which was developed by Atlas. The game has gained both critical and fanatical acclaim for its sophisticated graphic direction, intricate social simulation aspects, and captivating turn-based combat. Persona 5 Strikers, Persona 5 Tactica, Persona 5 X, and the improvised version of the game Persona 5 Royal have all been produced as a result of the game's massive success. Interest in the more extensive Shin Megami Tensei series has also been expressed as well.
Persona is a very interesting case because I think the last 3 entries of the Persona franchise has definitely gained more popularity. Persona 3 was definitely a good starting, and then Persona 4, especially Persona 4 Golden, keeping up with that momentum, and then Persona 5 was definitely the one that really skyrocketed the Persona franchise onto mainstream media. When it comes to the gaming industry, I think Persona 5 and Royal, probably one of the highest rated JRPGs of all time. On Metacritic, many people, including myself, found Persona 5 and got introduced to the genre because of that game and wanted to know more of what this genre had to offer. And on top of that, like including myself, many fans of the franchise want to look at the other games that Atlas have produced, such as Shin Megami Tensei, with now SMT5 being on multiple platforms. We're just, at the time of filming this video, SMT Vengeance is coming out this week. On top of that, we're just being able to experience more of the genres, especially with SMT5 and now more recently the hype for Metaphor ReFantazio. Not only is it great to see these developers create games for their popular franchises, it's great for them to go back to their catalog and push games that were once their main franchises and kind of became more niche, and now we're pushing them back to the mainstream and also allowing themselves to create new IPs on top of that, which is really great to see. Like I mentioned again with Metaphor ReFantazio.
An excellent illustration of nostalgia and contemporary technology is the Final Fantasy VII Remake series by Square Enix. With its beautiful visuals, revised battle system, and extended stories, the game reimagines the popular 1997 classic. Praising the original while incorporating innovative updates, the remake has drawn accolades from both ardent followers and casual observers. A big part of the JRPG renaissance has also come from smaller AA titles created by Square Enix. Octopath Traveler is a unique HD 2D art style that blends pixel art with 3D environments. It has revitalized the HD 2D genre by combining nostalgic aesthetics with cutting-edge gameplay advancements.
Now, Octopath Traveler is, I think, definitely the pioneer of the HD 2D art style. When that game was first announced back in 2017, so many people were in awe and in shock by how stunning these art style and graphics were. To be able to recapture the old aesthetic of the games of the 90s and early 2000s and to be able to repaint it and reimagine it for the modern day, honestly, chef's kiss. Team Asana are doing a god's work on their team, because not only have they gave us Octopath, they've given us a plethora of other games such as Octopath Traveler 2, Triangle Strategy, and have also spun to inspire other great developers to create games into that format, such as Star Ocean, First Departure R, even the Suikoden remaster, or as well as even Aiden Chronicles. Even most recently, what we've still have yet to know more about the release date and when that's coming out, is Dragon Quest 3 HD 2D. I'm really excited to see more games into this aesthetic and vibe. I would love, love, love to see Xenogears reimagined in this HD 2D style. I think it would work so well. It just would look really nice. It would be really awesome to recapture, but still be able to keep intact the old aesthetic, but also, again, keeping up with the modern times. Not only with AAA and AA developers creating great JRPGs, there's also some amazing indie titles that have come out in the past few years that many people have, again, paid homage to the older classics, but also paving their way into the modern day, such as Chained Echoes and Sea of Stars. Those are games that are currently on my wish list and I definitely want to get into, but what I've heard from these games, they've been nothing but great game mechanics, great story, and great art style, and of course, great music as well.
Innovation in the genre and outside of it has spurred the rebirth of JRPGs. A wide range of players are drawn to the hybrid experiences created by developers when they combine aspects of JRPGs with other genres. For instance, Nier Automata successfully blends action gameplay and JRPG narrative to create a highly praised game that defies genre classifications. In the gaming business, the JRPG renaissance has enabled a cultural interaction between East and West. While Japanese developers are embracing more Western design and principles, like as open-world exploration and real-time fighting, Western developers are embracing JRPG design features such as intricate narratives and character-driven storytelling. The worldwide gaming scene has been enhanced by this cross-pollination.
I think it's really interesting to be able to see both the JRPG and Western RPGs kind of mixed with one another. Recently, Xbox had their showcase, and one of the games that really stood out to me was Expedition 33. I absolutely loved the art style, and the turn-based mix with action-based combat with dodge and parry mechanics was really, really cool. It was really interesting to see this come from a Western developer, because I feel like a lot of Western RPGs more focus on action combat. So be able to see turn-based combat, which is mainly in JRPGs in a Western format, was really, really cool. And it allows people to push other developers to also incorporate different cultures and mechanics to both genres. Another great example of how JRPGs were influenced by Western RPGs is Final Fantasy 16. I know a lot of people don't consider it JRPG. Some say it leans too much on the Western RPG, but I feel like it does a good mix of both, with great JRPG storytelling, with great Western RPG combat, which I think is really great. With Final Fantasy 16, they worked with the combat director of Devil May Cry, which is also technically a JRPG. So either way, it's really cool to see Western elements influence in that game as well. Again, it's really great to see both Western and JRPGs influencing one another to create great products, because at the end of the day, it's really great as a consumer and player to be able to see great games encompass both great aspects of both genres.
A complex phenomenon, the JRPG resurgence is fueled by globalization, technical improvements, and nostalgia. Important games like Octopath Traveler, Final Fantasy VII Remake, and Fire Emblem Three Houses are prime examples of the genre's comeback, fusing traditional components with cutting-edge advancements. This comeback promotes genre fusion, cross-cultural interaction, and economic expansion, which has wider ramifications for the gaming industry. With its distinctive fusion of character development, engaging gameplay, and storytelling, JRPGs are sure to contribute to the gaming industry's continued growth.
Overall, I am totally here for the JRPG renaissance that we're finding ourselves in. I would love to hear with you guys what are some great JRPGs that have come out in the recent years that you are seriously ride or die for, that you think really benefited from this JRPG boom that we are currently seeing ourselves in. Or if you even think we're in a JRPG renaissance, let me know and comment down below. Again, if you guys enjoyed this video, do not forget to hit that like and subscribe button, and I can't wait to see you guys in the next one. Bye!